Right. It's good to see some of you, and I look forward to seeing everyone else with their camera turned on. Welcome back to class, everyone. We're getting into the final stretch of class. Hopefully you are at least thinking about the final two papers, if not already delving deeply into both of those projects as we get closer and closer to the end of our time together. So let's see. This is the 30th. We'll meet obviously today, and next week will be our last week together. And then the following week, of course, will be for you to have that time to work on and submit the final paper. So for today, we're getting into the Neff and McMinn chapters 1 through 4. And I thought for today, if you subscribe to their idea of integration as conversation, as opposed to something that is taught, that it is something that is caught, we're going to be doing some conversating today. See if we can go a little bit deeper in this thing that we are calling integration. And just wanted to share a couple of quick excerpts and a little bit of kind of my journey on the integration front, and then break you all into some groups and go through some of the integration prompts for each of the chapters. So, relating to our text, I'm reading from page 6, and this is again kind of putting before us this idea that we don't actually teach integration, but it's through our conversations. If this is resonating with you, and the author says at the top of page 6, let's assume you become a full-time psychologist and see 25 patients a week. That's a lot, by the way. 50 weeks a year over a career of 30 years. This means that you'll have more than 37,000 professional clinical conversations over the course of a career. Many of these will be deeply meaningful to your patients and to you, and some will be life-changing. When we talk about integration as conversation, this is not just a metaphor or a teaching method for this class, but it is actually the way you will be integrators through your entire career. You will have conversations, and they will probe the depths of what it means to be human, what it means to be made by and loved by God, how to handle suffering and spiritual struggle, and how to experience and enjoy the good gifts that life offers. You will be present to other human beings in the midst of their deepest questions about life and death, and you will likely do it over 35,000 times in your career. Conversation is not just a teaching method, it is the product of being an integrator. And then at the bottom of page 7, I wanted to read a quick excerpt, and then let's dialogue a little bit. And again, the author says, my time in seminary helped and challenged me in all sorts of ways, but perhaps the most enduring impact has been a Christian spirituality that fits well in a postmodern context. That may sound uncomfortable to some because it means engaging hard questions that challenge beliefs and assumptions about the world and how we live in it. But If a theological system is facing trouble in a cultural milieu, it seems that we have two options. One is to forcefully move forward, insisting that the rest of the world has it wrong and our theology is correct. The other is to consider our finitude and cultural blinders and the possibility that older theologies or newer ones may nudge us toward greater insight and wisdom regarding God, ourselves, one another, and the world in which we live. Maybe asking hard questions is exactly what we ought to be doing. If we can't ask hard questions and start fumbling for some answers, then I wonder what the future holds for the integration movement. All right. So let's just kind of respond a little bit here. Respond to anything that I just shared with you, and what is kind of bubbling up for you on this idea that integration isn't something that is taught, but integration is conversation.
I think I can kind of see it as both a little bit. I mean, I do think that it's better if it can just kind of happen naturally. But then I think there's also something to be said for, the wisdom of people like you who have been in the field for a long time that may, offer suggestions or ways of, broaching the subject. So I guess I see a little bit of both sides.
It's not an either or.
Right.
Okay?
Both and.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I can't, my computer isn't lighting up. But I think when I read that, I kind of imagined the concept of there's no way to teach like what's going to come up. They can teach what usually comes up, but since the clients will have such tailored, unexpected circumstances, it'll require us to, go through our own integrative process in real time. As far as, you just can't be like fully prepared for it, I don't think.
We're not going to be prepared or have the full breadth of knowledge from an integration perspective going into our counseling experiences. We're essentially learning on the job is what you're saying.
Right. That's what I thought they meant.
And I know we all love that, right? We love not having the answers, and we love learning on the job. Am I right? Not really? Okay.
Just to add on to that, I feel like if I went into a counseling office and I felt like a counselor had this like robotic like answer of like, this is exactly in this situation what I've been taught to say, like I probably wouldn't respond well to that, nor do I think many people would. And I think that there's a beauty, and we've talked a lot about like modeling Christ to our clients, and I like to think that although Jesus does have all the answers, he sits with people a lot and isn't just like, let me just solve all your problems right here and give you the exact answer. Obviously we're different from Jesus because we're not perfect, but I think that just being like we've been talking about, being on the process with other people, and I appreciate just like bringing in my own story with it. The second excerpt that you read about like just having different, like being curious about theology and different ideas, and that there are a lot of ideas out there, and questioning like if you're really hardened or you're really like, no, my way is the right way. I was very challenged in that. I went to an interdenominational seminary, so it's called Beeson Divinity School. And it was just a really humbling experience to be around all these scholars that are totally different denominations and have totally different theological understandings of things. And I feel like I'm continually learning like the value of just being like theological humility in the counseling room, to be like, I could be wrong, I'm still learning, we're all on a process. So that's just kind of what came up for me from that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I know when I've thought about theologians, maybe in the past I've kind of looked at it from a hierarchy, like, hey, they know more than I do, or somehow they have all the answers and I don't. But I don't necessarily look at it from that lens. And the idea of being open and flexible, I think there's value in that. Yeah. Right. Not being overly attached to one's theology. Again, something that we love to do as counselors. Yeah. Okay.
So that just made me think of, like, I was following a river system in UP, Michigan, and following all the waterfalls all the way up into the lake. And anyway, as I was following it, I was watching the water trickling down the mountainside, and it was going into the river system that was eventually dumping out, and it was coming from all different ways. And there's all these rocks and obstructions and things, yet the water was getting there, some faster than others and some in different ways or whatever, but it was all going to the same place that was eventually going to dump out, right? And like in that moment, it just made me think about like God's people all across the world. You know, we all celebrate God in different ways. Like we all have our own thought processes, the things that the Lord illuminates to us through his word, and how we even worship him. Like we're all different, we're all uniquely made, and we're all going towards that same place. And it might look different for somebody else than it does for me, but it doesn't mean that I'm any less than or they're any less than. It just means that this is the way that we worship God and that we view God. Anyway, so that's what this makes me think of.
Yeah. There are all different pathways leading to the same source. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Other reactions. Integration as conversation. Well, yeah, go for it.
There was just a thought that I think I've said this before. I learn more. Like learning is more caught than taught. I think we learn from doing, especially everybody learns differently, whether they're kinesthetic or audio learners or visual learners, or experiential learners. Like I think sometimes until we're, like she said, until we experience it in the moment, I don't think we'll have those aha moments maybe in counseling. It's what came to me. One of the things that I've heard over and over again in this class was all truth is God's truth, which came to me that I took a class of integration of faith and learning my freshman year of college back in probably 85. And it's wild how it's come full circle now that we're talking about it. That same quote is coming back up again. And I never, here it is, 40 years later, and truth has kind of emerged in my life in such a different way just by experience in life. And I remember when I would come home from college and I would say something to my parents that I learned back then, it was just like, you just think you know everything. And for me, it was curiosity. But that almost killed the curiosity by their response. And I think if we can continue to, because we're going to have people that are going to disagree with us all through life, but I just think it is, our clients are going to be in their own lives. Our lives are so different than theirs, as far as catching it, not being caught. It's going to have to be, and I believe in my experience that some things are just going to click for them as they walk it out and they walk through the process. And I think that's what's going to happen with us. We'll seeking to understand rather than to be understood. And the more we seek to understand our clients rather than getting our point across to them, I think there'll be like a transformation in that process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We were just talking about that in the last class, that it is potentially transformative when clients feel understood by their therapist. And if we're bringing a certain theological bend into the conversation that we feel like is the correct one, and if we're essentially seeking to install that theology into our clients, is that therapeutic? Is a valid question to be asking ourselves. And that it's really interesting to think about this idea that we have all these different cliches, but one of them is that as therapists we tend to learn more than the client based on our experiences with them, and it seems like that's a thread in this idea of integration, that we'll be learning through all of these conversations that we have with our clients. I just wanted to share maybe a couple little snippets from my own journey. Some of you may have heard some of these snippets before, but I've really come to my own way of parsing scripture, which is basically that we were under the tenets of the law in the Old Testament times. Jesus came, marched to the cross with, was nailed to the cross along with all of those commandments, and poured out 2 new commandments: to love God and your neighbor as yourself. And that we're essentially under God's mercy, grace, and forgiveness, which is good news, right? Hopefully, when we talk about there being good news, that's the good news. And that is, I guess, a bias that I have, is that I'm essentially sitting in the grace position, hoping that clients can catch that revelation. But for me, that was a process for me to get there. And I'm not saying that has to be the correct position, and that's the position everyone should be in. But for me, that's what makes most sense. That's how I can take a scripture that seems to be very authoritarian and reconcile it with a loving God. That makes sense to me. But when I was a counselor on day one, I was still kind of, I guess, a foot in both camps, both in the law and in grace. And so for me, it's really been a process. In my conversations with clients, I really wrestled a little bit with, okay, so what is God wanting from me with clients who identify differently in terms of their sexual identity, members of the LGBTQ community, for example, because it seemed like in the church environment, and with many of the conversations I was having, and how Scripture could be interpreted, that that maybe there was an exclusion to that particular group, and that maybe there was a different scenario for them based on how they identified sexually. And that was really something that I had to just ask God some very pointed questions. This was not like kind of, laissez-faire. I was really kind of placing this before God. And ultimately what came for me was that I'm just supposed to reflect Christ, and regardless of who's in the room with me, and that the outcome of things, that's God's department. So I'm kind of the worker bee for God. I'm God's representative. He's the one who's in charge of the outcomes. And there is a judge, and let me just check my notes. It's not Jack Underwood. Okay. Got that. All right. I'm there. So it's been a process for me to get to this place of grace. I believe that grace produced the works, not the other way around. Grace, we're allotted grace, and, we're loved, like Romans, it says in Romans chapter 8, in ways that really don't make sense to our human understanding, but it's profound, it's deep, it's immeasurable, it's unbreakable. These are the themes that really stand out to me in Scripture, and so that is where I have migrated to in my integration stance. But I do believe that it is really, really valuable to give yourself permission to ask really hard questions to God, even to be angry and to express, anger towards God. I believe that God can handle that. To not suppress or to closet very real questions that are applicable in this life that we're living. I think I've shared about our granddaughter, Amalia, who was a stillborn, which was extremely traumatic for our daughter. And as someone who is highly devoted to her faith, that brought some very difficult questions for her to wrestle with God about. How could a protecting and loving Heavenly Father allow such a thing to happen? And so, she went through a process of working with a Christian counselor and being in a process of healing over that very traumatic experience in her life. And so those are some very real, that's just an example of a very real thing to be sitting with. I'll share one last thing and then be quiet. I remember one client who came to me. He was really in a bad way over the end of his marriage due to a sexual addiction that he was engaged in. And when he came in for therapy, he really connected to, I think, the message of grace that he was hearing come out, that unconditional positive regard. He was probably dealing with a lot of guilt and shame because he felt like he just really fell short of what God was wanting for him, in his expression of his faith, and to not be engaged in sinful behaviors. And so he made some, I felt, really great progress. But lo and behold, then COVID came along, and he and I had completely opposing views on vaccinations. And so from an integration perspective, here's a client who was really connected to me, his therapist, who was really connected to how we processed God and Scripture, but yet on this topic that it could potentially be quite divisive in the public discourse, he and I were on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so from a integration perspective, that was a choice for me to decide how I wanted to show up in that. What was going to be therapeutic, which of course, in that case for me, I felt like it was therapeutic to not, to not divulge the fact that my thoughts on the matter were different than his, and to just let him process what he wanted to process about it. And so those are just, I guess, some thoughts that I have on the idea of integration, a little bit about my journey. Before we break into groups, any reactions to any of that?
Did you make the choice not to divulge? I mean, did he try to ask you your stance?
He did not. So that
Okay.
was a gift. Yeah.
So if he had, would you have tried to just say, we're not here to talk about me?
That's where the old car cop skills. So it sounds like you're interested to know what my stance is on, and hope that the subject matter changes. Yeah, but I'd probably try not to really go there. But if pressed, then yeah, I probably would have disclosed that. All right. Well, what I'd like to do is, again, this is an invitation, and I'm hoping that you all will engage in it under the banner of this idea of integration as conversation. And what are those difficult questions? What are the questions to wrestle with? What are the questions that are maybe profound? And this is a safe space. So the encouragement that, based on the conversations that you all have, that we want to be able to hold separate truths in the same space. That it's not a right or wrong, but it's more just dialoguing and having the conversation. So I'm going to split you up into 4 groups, and each group is going to be assigned one of the 4 chapters for this week. And I'd like to have you take a look at what the subject of the chapter is, and you can either come up with your own profound or questions maybe that you're wrestling with on that topic, or there are integration conversation starters throughout each chapter that you can choose some of those and just start dialoguing with each other. I'm going to be dipping into each group, to just hopefully add some value to the conversations that you're having. But that's the assignment. So I'll put you into groups, and then I'll dip in real quick to each group, let you know what chapter you've been assigned. So here you go. All right. I know you get sick of me saying this, but it's apparent that this truly is the dream team group right here. So you all have chapter 1 on lament. How do we make sense of the deep aches in life? And again, you've got those conversation starters. If you need something to just kind of get going, feel free to utilize that. And yeah, I hope you all engage in some meaningful dialogue. Now, I'll be back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where are the conversation starters?
The one I see is on page 12.
Okay.
There might be others, but
I'm trying to bring it up.
says, as you ponder your own age and cultural context, what assumptions and values might influence how you understand the integration of psychology and Christianity? And in regard to the integration conversations that will emerge from this book, what might you hope to learn from others as differing ages and cultural backgrounds?
As far as age, I'd imagine the different challenges that we go through based on where we are in life will, either maybe automatically cause us to pay more attention to certain issues our clients might have, or, it may give us better context for ones we've already experienced, or we may have to push ourselves to understand something we've never been through before, or can't really relate to, as to the first one.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the age and cultural context and assumptions and values that might influence us, like I grew up in rural America, by parents who never really went to the doctor, never really spoke about things, everything was always just like, pull up your bootstraps and throw some dirt on it and make it work, right? So
Yeah.
think about that, and that's not the society that we live in today, and that's not what our kids are being taught for the most part today. Our kids are being taught that mental health matters. We're starting to see, all these patterns emerge that is showing us that, like, we can't do the whole pull up your bootstraps and, move forward and whatnot. And so, like, I think about it from that concept, and I've had to learn a very different way to the point that it's landed me in graduate school for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going into a new career.
Yeah.
And those are assumptions and values that I've had to really lay down in order to embrace the fact that this is really important. And I don't really know how that fully plays into lament, other than understanding that, like, where people are sitting and the hurts and the pains that they have actually do matter, and that's stuff that, like, I know my generation and older than me probably are having to come out of, and we're going to have older clients sitting in front of us that are, working from that same mindset that I grew up in.
Yep. Yeah. And so what one of this, my parents' generation are like that too, and I talk with someone from that viewpoint every other week, and that what they consider hope may be more less critically thought, then, you know, like just, this is the way that it should be, so therefore that is hope, you know,
Yeah.
versus, I've thought this through and can at least start thinking about what it means to me, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if my page numbers match because I have the like electronic version
Yeah.
of the book. And so I think are there more than one set of questions?
Yes, there are.
Okay, because I was like, I found some questions, but I don't think they match the ones that you guys were saying. But we can look at these too if you guys want.
Yeah, however you want to do it.
Of course.
So this one says, during times of turmoil, when do you most naturally lean toward hope or lament? And what work might you need to do to hold the two together?
Probably hope is easiest to feel like it's there when things aren't that bad. You know,
Yeah.
when things aren't that hard, or, you know, you see, you know, positive examples in other people.
I really do believe also that like before I don't want to say became a Christian, but like before I really started focusing on my relationship with Jesus, it was a lot easier to go towards lament than towards hope. I mean, sometimes even now I'm like, I don't understand how people do life without God.
Well, and even struggling with like when to bring in and when to allow a client to sit and lament, right? Because there's a time for the grieving and you don't want to dismiss that.
Yeah.
And then there's also a time to bring in hope and integrate that piece in with the lament and knowing the right timing for both so that the client feels seen, heard, and like they've gotten what they need out of the lament portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're gonna have a hard time with that if we're in a place that accepts insurance. You know, and you're like pushed to have a lot of sessions and all that.
Yeah.
Because it just inherently seems like it would, you know, take time to identify it. It just seems like a deep issue to talk through, and both of them do.
Yeah.
And how they relate together. I feel like it's probably more difficult to identify lament. I mean, I really haven't thought about lament before, but like, you know, with all the keywords that are out there now, you know, like I'm feeling blank, you know, or just the overuse of psychological terms. It's kind of interesting to think about, you know, actually talking about this biblical concept. It feels like it would take more to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. This book, I swear.
Was there another question on the ones that you guys were looking at initially?
I actually think I was in the introduction on those questions because I started trying to find the questions that you were looking at.
Oh, okay.
So that was the difference.
So this next one says, how do you make sense of holding on to hope in God while still knowing that God may not respond to your cries of protest as you would desire?
I guess you kind of refer back to examples from the Bible. Just for a, you know, context that it's possible.
Yeah.
Even though there's silence. Not that would be easy. I'm just
Yeah.
automatically think.
Like I think about potential future clients that are maybe like trying to get pregnant and they're struggling. Like you want to be able to refer to the Bible and say, remember how long it took for so and so to get pregnant?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But then I feel like we don't know if our client is ever going to get pregnant or not. And so I feel like I would be giving them almost like not false hope, but potentially false hope.
I guess maybe we would talk about it like in, I don't know, in theory, or like maybe not using the exact example.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna be so hard because you imagine someone, sitting in front of you, and when something seems so analogous like that, it feels like it'd be really tempting to say that,
Yeah.
Look at this, it's the same situation.
Yeah.
Look what he did here.
Well, and even just wondering, because, we can bring in those situations biblically, and if the client is open to it, then it can, in the right moment, in the right context, that can work really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just wondering, like, what does hope look like for them? How do they describe hope, even in the midst of what they're walking through,
Yeah.
Which can be conversation starters that can lead into, because that's what I was sitting here thinking, like, how do you even start a conversation like that? And what does that look like for the client that is sitting there that has tried everything to become pregnant and has not been able to be successful, and just wondering like what hope looks like for them, and maybe that can take you into that biblical aspect of hope.
Yeah.
And some people may just be not familiar with the concept of hope at all. If they're from hard situations.
Yeah. The third question on here is, what forms do you put, does that say forms? Yeah. What forms do you put in place to keep lament from devolving into free-floating bitterness?
I guess maybe not really like naming it as hope, but maybe integrating some aspects of hope and how you respond, or like some positive verbiage when you're asking them questions, maybe.
Well, and then watching too, because lament is such a beautiful part of it, but when you watch them spiraling into despair, that's when you know that you have to like integrate the hope in and start that conversation of what does hope look like for you, and that's maybe where that comes in.
Yeah.
The aspect that they need to be able to sit in the lament, and then the aspect that can go too far and fall into bitterness in places that will take them into a dark place rather than help them heal.
Yeah.
I heard something the other day too about hard emotions, like if you sit in them, that they only, like something about 90 seconds. I think that's when you're feeling them acutely, like, and I don't know exactly how I'd say this, but I guess maybe some aspects of psychoeducation about how thought processes usually go might help, you know, so it doesn't seem like it's all of their own creation, you know?
Yeah.
And that they have to solve it, or that you can solve it. Because that's not true.
Anything that I can contribute, or any questions that you have that I could respond to? What are you guys dialoguing about?
This one was how to keep lament from basically turning into just bitterness. And then we also talked about how do you make sense of holding on to hope in God while still knowing that God may not respond to your cries of protest as you would desire. And we were talking about how, like, if we potentially had a client that was maybe trying to get pregnant and was struggling with that, you know, if we wanted to talk about, like, in the Bible, there were several women that struggled to get pregnant, or it took, you know, many years to get pregnant. Like, how do you kind of give them the hope that, like, you know, look how long so and so waited, but without giving them false hope, because you don't know if they're ever going to get pregnant or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it sounded like you all were kind of keying in on this idea that is definitely one of the, I would say, pillars of our profession, which is to essentially install hope, or to be a presence of hope for our clients when they may not have it themselves. But then, yeah, you ask a very valuable question. Where is that fine line where, you know, you're giving maybe false hope? Yeah.
Do you,
Go ahead. I was thinking of that acceptance and commitment therapy, you know, in that, to where you're walking with them in the lament, you're walking with them in what they're walking through, right? And then using the mindfulness techniques, using the different things, so that we can help create a meaningful experience and a meaningful life for them, is what I was like. That's what I was just sitting here thinking about. Like, that might be a good modality in that kind of situation, potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, acceptance is really key in terms of what the situation is. Very, in my experience, therapeutic for clients. And that's usually half the battle, because they're rejecting the situation essentially, and that it's like adding to the despair that they feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe also the Rogerian concept of reflecting back to them. We could integrate hope-based language into that when we rephrase what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel natural in doing that yet. I hope I do over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like someone's going to say, "Why are you repeating what I'm saying?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have a client right now who believes that you know, he had his one shot to find the love of his life, and you know, God has shut the door, and that's it. And so I'm kind of standing in that place of hope while he essentially decides whether he wants to be vulnerable enough to open himself up to the possibility of getting hurt again, because that's ultimately what it's about. You know, he's doing one of these numbers, like, you know, I'm sorry, wrong. Get close to me. No, get away from me, kind of. Because it's all based on his trauma. So I try to stand there in a place of hope for him, And I think sometimes too, sharing examples of other people who've been in similar situations, and maybe even if you've been in a similar situation, that could be appropriate to do some self-disclosure. I'm thinking of, one of my clients that I worked with for a really long time. She really was attached to the idea that she was the worst of the worst, and there just wasn't any hope for her. But I shared with her a couple of, in an anonymous way, struggles that other clients were having. And also when she joined a women's group that I was facilitating, and some of the women in that group started to share aspects of their story, it kind of illuminated a light bulb for her that maybe she isn't the only one that's dealing with this, and maybe, she isn't the worst of the worst. So sometimes, a counselor self-disclosure and also peer feedback can be very powerful.
I think, I don't know, it makes me wonder how you know when it's time to self-disclose in something like that.
Yeah.
How it will be helpful to the client
And how much?
and how much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like the second they say, like, oh, I just went through a really bad breakup, you don't want to be like, oh, I've been through bad breakups. Because then it's like,
Let me tell you.
Oh, man. You should have seen what it was like back in 2017, yeah.
right, like, they're going to be like, wait a second, this is my therapy.
Right, yeah.
Maybe there's some formula for saying it.
Oh.
Like maybe we could think about it in a strategic way, so maybe it'll cut down on the emotion or something. I don't know.
Well, it maybe you don't quite know what this is yet, but to just at least ask yourself the question will this be therapeutic for the client? Before you disclose. Because if it's more about you, then that's obviously not very therapeutic. Yeah. All right, we'll carry on. If I haven't brought you all back by 15 past the hour, you have permission to go ahead and wrap things up on your own. I have a meeting that I have to transition to at 6:30 Eastern. So if I don't bring us all back, you can dismiss at 15 past the hour.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got it.
We're gonna keep going through these questions then, if it's that long. We've got 20 minutes.
I know. That's what I'm thinking.
How many questions are there?
Unless there's more in a different part of the chapter.
So maybe, I don't know if 34 is the right number, but this is chapter 1 I'm in now. It's before the part about Jeremiah. There's more integration questions there that says, if you are a psychotherapist or counselor, how have you noticed yourself trying to tidy up the struggles and complaints your patients bring? What sort of fears do you confront in yourself as you consider resisting this impulse to tidy up your patient's anger or complaints?
Yeah, I think I'll have a big urge with that because I'm just imagining, like feeling the anxiousness or the energy coming from it, when they're and you think that like what your academic or past experience could like solve it right then, you at least want to bring it up,
Well, and just knowing that like we can't fix it,
yeah,
no, we're not there to necessarily fix it. That they're on a healing journey, and you know, they come in your office one way and you want them to leave feeling better, but that's not always what happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Or that what I'm wanting to do would not necessarily make them feel better. Might make me feel better. That's about it.
Yeah.
But he's right. I've been through the group counseling class too, but I'm also in kind of a peer support group for myself, and it is amazing. Just, even simple subjects, just hearing them from another person, it just does something with your brain. It kind of opens it up to, I don't know, be more receptive or something like that.
Yeah.
Group work is pretty cool.
I think it's just knowing you're not alone in your experience.
Yeah. Because I don't think we ever like literally say I am alone. But it's more like a subconscious thing. At least I don't. But then, it's kind of like the opposite effect there with I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But just from a subconscious way, direction.
And then question 2 was, what forces in the modern day church keep us from lamenting in the ways we see in the Hebrew scriptures?
Most people being uncomfortable with emotion.
Yeah. I think that's very common.
Mm.
There's a woman and she's a beautiful woman, God, she loves the Lord with all of her heart, and she's older, and and she has a testimony, and it's a deep one, and she has this belief system that if you cry about it when you tell your testimony, that you're not healed yet, you're not delivered. That's the belief system that she has. And it's like, no, we're emotional beings. Like, we have feelings, and we're allowed to have feelings even as Christians, and it doesn't mean that we're not delivered or unhealed or whatever. It means that, we feel and we, whatever. And anyway, that's what this just made me think of, because like it makes it so dismissive,
Yeah.
And so sad. So like she told her testimony for the first time in 50 years out loud to people, and she's in her 70s.
Mm-hmm.
She started to tear up and her voice cracked, and later she was like, "What's wrong with me? I thought I was healed."
Oh goodness. Yeah.
You're actually a human being. Look at that.
Yeah.
But based on her age, like you're saying before, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think about that when it talks about like what keeps us from lamenting in the ways that we see in the Hebrew scriptures, or I think of others who like just don't talk about it. Another beautiful woman of God lost her daughter, and she came to church the very next day and was worshiping, and she said there's a time to grieve, and it's not now. Like, put her grieving in private rather than, because that's what a good Christian does. And that, and these are all older group people, and I love them dearly. But one day I came downstairs I work with the teenagers, and a teenager was supposed to come sit with me, and she didn't. And so I went downstairs, and that same group of people are sitting downstairs, and they started telling me, "Can we line up, and have a counseling session with you?" And and they start telling me the things going on in their life, and I'm like, "Y'all don't need a counselor, y'all just need prayer." We start bringing our burdens to one another and stop thinking that we gotta sit here and act like things aren't going on in our lives,
Yeah.
I don't know. So those are all the things that just start coming up for me, and probably why I went where I did, even in my own rural America and like what I grew up in, because that's just the culture that I see. And I'm like, guys, like, we get to be human beings, and that's why we can't limit like what we see in the Hebrew scriptures, which I'm sure and I know I read this, but it's been a minute since I read it, but they probably were talking about Hebrews in this chapter right before those questions or something, for it to ask about that.
This is more categorical, but it also kind of makes me think about, at least with the main U.S. Denominations, how the issue of like divorce and things like that aren't handled very well, by the church. At least right now they're not. As far as like approaching it, not or for there to be an open, receptive way of handling it, or supporting
Darian, do you have any thoughts?
I was just thinking as I was reading. Well, I'm much younger than y'all, so. And I'm not very religious, so. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
How these questions are like formed. So it makes you like think about it, I guess.
Yeah. What brought you to Richmond? Just out of curiosity.
It was just a random school that popped up on Google to get this degree in. So
Yeah.
Just to be a counselor.
Yeah. Because I had just got out of I had just graduated from Capella when I started this, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is my second master's, so I just wanted to get in something quick so I could graduate fast.
What's your other master's in?
Psychology with a specialization in child and adolescent development.
Nice. Wow. So you want to work with kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Child psychologist is the goal.
Yeah.
So after I finished here, before coming here, it was either get another master's or go straight to my PsyD, but I didn't know if I want to dedicate 6 years of my life to that right now. I just want to get the experience, so I was like, I'll just be like a therapist or something and for a couple years and then decide if I want to go for my doctorate.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm trying before I reach the point where I don't want to do anything at all. I'm trying to keep the momentum while I'm young.
Yeah.
I get that.
That's why I did this now too, because I knew I wouldn't be able to. My brain wouldn't be the same when I'm older.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you, I have been praying. You know how they say that your plasticities start to crystallize after a certain age? I'm like, Lord, I need not to crystallize right now.
Yeah.
Give me an oil change. Just keep it going.
Right.
Keep it going.
So I'm like, if you're calling me to this, then you got to do that for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
He's been pretty faithful. I am curious, Terry Ann, with your perspective and your eyesight and lens of what we're sitting here reading and talking about, and even the answers, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to contribute to all of that, given your perspective on it?
I think it's kind of like a complex type of thing, and how you actually view what's actually being said, because when I read the chapter, it's kind of like, I don't know how to put it. Like, how can you make sense of certain things you just don't know?
Yeah.
Like, there's not a specific answer to, well, I don't think there's a definite answer to any of the questions, because I think that, like, for example, like y'all answers are the truth to what you guys think it is,
Right.
There's no correct right or wrong answer. So I think that's very like thought provoking while also taking many different perspectives into consideration. So
Mhm.
I honestly agree with all of y'all. I just think it depends on the lens you're viewing it from.
Mhm.
Makes
But I
sense.
also think because I'm younger, that's more of a like soul search. Like I don't have no kids. I'm not married. So that just really just as I'm going through it though, those are experiences that I'm hopefully that I get more knowledge in.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
for
also.
now, I just think that like when the professor talks about like his clients and stuff, it is very like wow, like people really like he be dealing with all types of people.
Yeah.
But definitely from his Christian perspective, because I'm also in what is it the biblical class.
Anthropology.
Yeah, I think so with Rice,
Mhm.
and you know he goes on.
Oh, yeah, he sure
So he
does.
goes on.
Yeah, I think that's who
He's
I
very,
had
very
too.
excited. He's looking
Yeah,
very,
he's
very
very like
alert.
he's very in the Bible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think
But I just think
isn't
it's
he a
funny, yes.
pastor, or he has a background in that or something? I think.
He's actually the university's what's it called? It's in his little handle.
Okay.
He's actually the university's. I think it has something to do with that.
Okay.
What's his first name?
Joshua.
Joshua.
I'm trying. I think that was my teacher for anthropology. Does he have young kids?
I don't remember.
They're around my age, but yeah, they're not
then
like
maybe
little
I'm
kids.
not thinking of the right person. I'll have to look him
He's
up.
the university provost.
Oh.
Okay.
And he's the dean of the School of Ministry.
Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you would definitely know Rice. He's bald and he goes on.
He's got glasses.
Yeah, glasses.
Yeah.
But he's very like he's kind of like Dr. Underwood in a way, but he definitely goes like in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks more.
Yeah, definitely.
You kind
So
of
I think
reminded
that's
me of.
interesting while taking this class.
Do what?
I said I think it's interesting because
Yeah.
the two
Both of
kind of both of them kind of go together.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see. Who
you're
Okay,
right,
I haven't had him. I just looked him up, but yeah, I've seen him, but I haven't had his class.
Yeah, he's pretty chill, but he's very like specific.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
It's been a while. It's been a minute. I think I had him last summer. I think that's when I had that.
I had him too last, and he remembered me when I got to this class, and I was like, yeah. I was like, that class was a lot. Well, luckily, I only have a couple more classes, and then I'll be done.
Are you on a 3-year?
Oh no, I'm
No?
on 2 years.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's why I said I'm
Woo!
trying to
Yeah.
finish this as quickly as possible. May 2027, I'll be graduating.
Oh my gosh.
We're all the same, right? Jennifer, you and Bonnie graduate May 27th?
No,
No.
28.
I'm 28. Yeah.
Well, then you were at the retreat, the Eagle Retreat, Terry Ann? Were you
No,
there?
I did not go to that. I did the writing assignment instead because I had stuff to do. There's no time to retreat when you have to get your hours together before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was rough, but I did go to that, so I didn't see you there then. But I'll graduate in May 27th there as well, so I'll see you.
Yeah.
I'll see you
You'll see me then. Yeah.
Sarah, were you 3 or 2 years?
2.5 is
2.5.
what I started in
Yeah.
January.
Okay.
So when you start in January, you're doing the 2-year track. It ends up being a 2.5-year track.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you have to get them hours. Like, I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, you're in practicum now, right, Terry?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I have like over 50 something indirect, and I still have to get my direct hours up before August.
How did
Yeah.
you guys go about finding the site? Did they help you with that, or was it
You
like?
have to look on supervision assist
Okay.
and look at placements.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I had gone through some trouble because the first place I chose,
Mm-hmm.
they were unprofessional and stuff, and I couldn't get the video. Like, you need 2 videos for your practicum.
Hmm.
I was struggling to get in that. I never met the supervisor. The supervisor was responding slow. Then her director was doing, it was just a lot. So I had to actually get another site.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily this one was way better. Like,
Oh, good.
I love this site. So I started last week. So I'm supposed to be getting a client Wednesday.
Oh.
So we're gonna see how that goes.
Oh my.
But yeah, I had to drop the other placement, which I really didn't want to do, but it's like, if you're serving me no purpose, you got to go.
Yeah.
So, and you want to make sure you have the right supervision. That
Exactly.
you know, and so
Exactly.
sometimes you do have to shift and all of that. Like for me,
Yeah.
I come from a rural area. I live in a rural area, and I already knew where I was going to go.
Really?
Mhm.
You know, so it was just a matter of getting it all set up and everything, and so it's worked out really well for me. Because where I live is a very underserved area, so I love interns because they can.
Mm-hmm.
You get that word. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that works out well, but you get the whole spectrum of issues. Like I have a 63-year-old that has never been to counseling in his life,
Mm.
sitting in my office, and I'm going,
Wow. Wow.
like, what?
So what's
Anyway.
the limit of when you're in practicum versus that do you have more limitation while you're in practicum, I'm guessing, as far as what you can do?
Practicum versus internship, it's really kind of the same thing. It's just they call the summer months practicum. So
Oh.
you have 40 hours of direct counseling time. You have to have like, I forget how many hours of indirect, whatever.
It's like 60
hours of indirect, so you end up with 100. That's practicum, and that's the summertime. And then you switch into internship in August, and that
300.
Yeah.
and then the hours change, right? So really, that's the only difference.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting.
And then you have to do 3 videos for
Internship.
internship 1, and then internship 2 is another 3 videos.
Well, that's not a lot, is it? I mean,
it is depending on where you're at, and what you can get done. Because again, you also have to have the consent of the person that you're videoing. So that could also be the issue if the people that you have don't want to be like videoed.
So you have to work that out. So your site supervisor isn't like prepping people for that. You have to like talk with your client and get all that. Well, darn.
Yeah.
That's gonna be awkward.
Yeah.
You have to ask them for consent to record them. So like the other intern at my office is from Liberty University. She's getting through Liberty, and she doesn't have to record every session like we do. There's a lot.
I was gonna go to Liberty too. That's crazy.
Wow. The things that, and they did when the group class that we do here, like they send them over to Africa and do a group class in Africa.
What?
I was like, what? She said, oh, it was the coolest experience ever.
Oh, I'd say.
Wow.
Holy. How much does that cost?
I know, right?
The tuition.
Yeah, I don't know. My supervisor did Liberty University. That's where she graduated from as well. And she told me that what we go through is way more rigorous, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that Richmont, is known for producing, high quality professionals. And so I'm not saying Liberty isn't.
Yeah.
But have some respect for that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, as much as I hate some of the things that I end up having to do, I'm like, there is purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And it is something within us, a solid foundation to go into this field.
Yeah.
So
that's good to know.
Perspective,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely when y'all do it, definitely be on your P's and Q's about, make sure they actually read the manual, because I'm gonna just say who I had. I went to Peachford Hospital in Dunwoody. So that's the mental health hospital, psychiatric. I could you can get your hours there. The hours wasn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the video I needed, and they put me on intake. In intake, they expect all of their intakes to be done under 120 minutes. So out of that 120 minutes, you only get like, depending on who's coming in, less than 45 minutes with the actual client, and then you have to do the rest is just paperwork.
Oh, really?
So that was the issue of like, I was contacting the director and my supervisor. I'm like, hey, like I need video, like consent, and it needs to be like at least like an hour or something.
Yeah.
You don't really get one-on-one with the people that come in. So I was like, intake is not doing it for me.
Yeah.
And the people that were training me while I was there, they were amazing. Like the people that trained me were amazing.
Good.
But they did tell me like, Peachford will mess you up. They're not very organized or whatever. And they were like, you should have been with social work or whatever, because they have different units. So they were like, they should have put you with social work or something, because they're the ones that have, the caseloads and stuff like that. And I was like, and then I started to just question, and as the time went on, I was getting no response and stuff like that. So I had to contact Amy, and then I had to contact Dr. Bazille. Dr. Bazille was still trying to get me to stay there, but I was like, I live in Lithonia, I have a job in Snellville, and then the new place is in Fayetteville. So I said, I'm not going to go from my house to Snellville to Dunwoody to Fayetteville to back to my house. So that's not going to work. And I said, there's only 7 days in a week.
And
There's
you're
only so
working
much I can
too? You're working?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm a RBT, so I do like in home and clinic. It just depends.
Okay.
So I don't have much time in my day
No.
to be going everywhere.
Yeah.
So that definitely had to get sorted. So we finally cut ties. Like I finally was able to contact my supervisor, because I was like, hey, ever since I've been working there, I've never seen you. You've never talked to me. Y'all put me on intake, and also you put me on intake Fridays and Saturdays from 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m.
Oh.
I'm not. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. I was
my
like,
gosh.
I'm not gaining anything from,
Yeah.
like, I'm not learning, CBT. I'm not seeing anything that is contributing to the requirements of Richmond.
Sure,
so I was
sure.
like, yeah, I got to go. We finally got on an understanding, and basically they also told me, you're just going to find somewhere else. And I was like, I'm kind of upset that you wasted half of my semester, because
you could have read it in the beginning.
most def.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm kind of upset that you wasted half of my semester, because I have to get those hours by this specific time.
Yeah.
So luckily, this new place, very lovely. It's like a residential type thing.
Okay.
They're like a condo residential clinic.
Oh, okay.
So it's and some people graduated from Richmond there too. And also went to Peachford. So I'm excited. For the past 2 days, I've been 3 days I've went there. It's been nothing but warm energy. People actually teach you like what you're learning. So
That's
I'm
nice.
excited, but definitely when y'all begin, do your P's and Q's. You do not want to wait until it's the middle of the semester and you have to get all those requirements, the video, your case presentation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. That's
Good to
very
know.
helpful.
Yeah, thanks for the information.
No problem. Because I was just like, oh wow. Because I didn't think I would have had that problem.
You think they'd have
And
vetted them
then-
if they're on the list?
Yeah. I was like, I don't think Richmond should have put y'all on the approved list if y'all can't accommodate everything they're asking for.
Yeah.
But I guess some people also use them as the secondary site. But it's like, I don't want to do that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's way too much gas to be driving all over Georgia,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like it.
especially if we're not getting paid.
right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, that was something. So yeah, but now I know, and now I think I'm gonna be with them starting my internship. So
Oh, good.
I should be fine.
Good.
Good.
Wonderful.
Do we leave the room and just see if there's anybody in the main room, and then I guess we
I don't
just-
even know how to do that.
Oh, I don't even think if he doesn't add you back, because if you leave the room, it's just gonna take you out of the Zoom.
Oh, then we're done.
Yeah,
Then we're done. I think we just leave.
yeah. He popped up a message that
Oh,
said
did it?
class was dismissed whenever.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I
All
guess we're done.
Thank you,
All
ladies.
right.
All right then, y'all. Have a nice night.
You too.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.